Welcome to Deck Analysis and Testing. Today we have a look at CRYSTRONs. There is no surprise that CRYSTRON is my favorite deck, and it's not like the deck got any new support recently, so why am I even making a CRYSTRON video? Well, recently the box chip pool got expanded, and guess what? You can now get the older CRYSTRON cards with box chips, and you know I won't miss an opportunity to make a CRYSTRON video. The newer ones like Fistburn and Impact aren't there yet, but they're from a mini box, so it's easier to get, and they're gonna eventually be included in box chips anyway, so why not? Okay, let's go over the cards. First, we have the best CRYSTRON monster. CRYSTRON Solfifnir is what makes this deck work. It has a 1% effect when this card is in your hand or graveyard to special summon itself by discarding a CRYSTRON card, and then destroying a card from your field immediately afterwards. Usually you will be destroying itself. When it's destroyed and sent to graveyard by a battle or card effect, you can special summon a CRYSTRON monster from your deck in defense position. Next is CRYSTRON Smiger. This card can destroy a card on the field, a face-up card on the field. It needs to be face-up to special summon a CRYSTRON tuner from your deck, and then you're locked into machine synchros. And then it has a graveyard effect to banish itself to add a CRYSTRON spell trap from your deck to your hand. Next is Fistburn. It is basically identical to Smiger, except it searches for monsters instead of spell traps. We have a copy of Rosenix. Again, has the effect to summon the tuner from your deck, but its graveyard effect is to make a token. The token is pretty good for link summoning, even though we're not playing any link monsters. And you can change the level of the token with your skill to synchro summon with it a lot easier, because the token is only level 1. And for our last non-tuner CRYSTRON monster, we have the Turtle. Turtle has the graveyard effect of banishing itself to special summon a CRYSTRON from your hand. This can extend your combos by summoning any CRYSTRON that you have drawn, or you can just summon a copy of Solfifnir in attack position and attack with it. It has 2k attack, which is half your opponent's life points, which is pretty high. For the tuners, we have 2 copies of Citri. Citri is our level 2 tuner that can special summon a monster from your graveyard as a quick effect, and then immediately afterwards synchro summon with itself and that monster, and then banish those materials. You can only synchro summon machine synchro monsters with this effect, so we don't have too many options, but it's still pretty good. Same with Ryon, but instead of summoning from the graveyard, it summons from a banished, and also it shuffles the monsters back to your deck instead. This is what you will usually be summoning on turn 1, just because it has a better level than Citri, because Powered Insectron is what you will want to make usually when you go first and make during your opponent's turn. For our non-CRYSTRON monsters, we have 3 copies of Scrap Recycler. This is limited to 3, unfortunately, because of the sins of Orcust, but it's a really strong starter nonetheless. This card can, when normals or special summoned, can send a machine monster from your deck to the graveyard. Usually you'll be sending a copy of Fistburn, and then banishing itself from the graveyard to search any monster. But if you already have it in your hand, you'll be sending a Solfifnir instead, and sending the Fistburn from your hand using the Solfifnir effect. It has a second effect that nobody uses, so I will not talk about that. And then we have 3 copies of TG Striker. So what people usually play in the expensive version, even back then when CRYSTRONs were meta, was Cyclic Wheel Eater. It is a level 3 tuner that we are playing in the expensive version. I will talk about it later. And it is a free summon. It is a free level 3 tuner that you can summon. You can make level 6 or level 9 synchros pretty easily with it. And it is even better when we had the level duplication skill to make any of our monsters level 3, so that it can special summon itself even when we don't initially have a level 3 monster on the field. We were playing TG Striker in the free-to-play version because it achieves a very similar role. It is a tuner that special summons itself for free, even though it is not level 3. It is level 2, and also we need to have no monsters, and our opponent only needs to control a monster. But it's still pretty good going second because of a neat little trick about discard the skill and also making Black Rose Dragon. It's a pretty fun combo. that catches a lot of people off guard. So what you can do is special summon TG Striker and then normal summon anything, and then that doesn't seem very threatening. But what you can do is immediately afterwards use a skill, which is let's talk about the skill right now. The skill can change any of your monsters level to 1 to 4, and then you can only synchro summon for the rest of the turn. And then what you will do is change one of your monster's levels, and then make a Black Rose Dragon. And then its on summon effect will basically blow up the board immediately. And even if your opponent chains something to it, as long as it's not a negate, it will resolve and blow everything up anyway. So that's a pretty good way to actually clear your opponent's board before you commit to anything. For the back row, we're playing 3 copies of Back to Square One. We need really powerful spells for us to go second, because this deck does have a lot of problems going into established boards. Some of the best ones are Dark Hole, Lightning Vortex, Forbidden Droplet, but those are expensive, so we're just playing a free-to-play spell card that does a similar thing. Back to Square One is really good, not just because it has a really strong removal effect, it's also a card that discards, and that will be helpful if you draw Fistburn and nothing else, because Fistburn itself is not really a starter, but if you have a way to get it to your graveyard, it can search a starter for you, and the spell is one of the ways you can send it to the graveyard. And finally, 2 copies of CRYSTRON Impact. This card is really strong and is basically the only target worth searching off of Smiger, at least in Duel Links right now. I know there's new stuff in the TCG. I hope we're gonna get that soon. CRYSTRON Impact is a trap that special summons a banished CRYSTRON, and also lowers all of your opponent's monster's defense to 0. And that pairs really well with one of our synchro monsters, because that synchro monster changes our opponent's monsters to defense position. While this card is in the graveyard, it's also a negate. It's not a very good negate. It only negates an effect that targets a CRYSTRON monster, but it's still pretty good. And if you have a way to get it to your graveyard turn 1, maybe if you drew it and send it to the graveyard with Self-Ifnir, you can actually protect your tuners from something like a Book of Moon if your opponent chains a Book of Moon or Forbidden Chalice in response to your tuner activation, or if they use it during the draw phase when they should be using it. You can still negate it with Impact and protect your tuners. For the extra deck, we're playing all synchros. First is 3 copies of CRYSTRON Ametrix. This card is a level 5 synchro, which means it's very, very easy to summon. That's why we're playing 3 copies. Even though it doesn't really have an amazing effect, it's so easy to make that you should play more copies. You should play more than 1 copies in the free-to-play version. It is completely generic in its materials, and when it's synchro summoned, you can change all face of special summoned monsters your opponent controls to defense position, and when it's destroyed by battle or card effect, can special summon back a CRYSTRON monster from your graveyard. Usually you want to be summoning a Self-Ifnir if you're being attacked to, tankable attacks, because when Self-Ifnir gets attacked over, you can special summon another CRYSTRON from deck. Or you can special summon a tuner so that you can combo during your turn, or synchro summon during your opponent's turn. And we have a copy of Samurai Destroyer. It is pretty good at attacking monsters that have effects that trigger when they are destroyed, because it shuts them off. And also, it has a pretty neat effect. It's not once per turn, that special summons a machine monster from a graveyard when it leaves the field by a card effect, and that includes itself. So, if your opponent only has a way to send monsters to graveyard with card effect and can't really beat over it, you can revive this card infinitely. And that's pretty cool against deck like Sky Strikers, because the Striker spells can't really get rid of it. They can only steal it with Widow Anchor, but if they try to pop it with Afterburners, it just comes back every single time. We have 1 copy of Power and Zectron, which is our main target to synchro summon during our opponent's turn, because when this card is synchro summoned, it has a mandatory effect that lingers. And if your opponent doesn't negate it when it hits the field, it will linger on the field, similarly to Assembled Nightingale. in that you take no damage this turn, and also discard specifically cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. We have one copy of White Aura Dolphin. We don't make this card very often, but it's pretty good against some decks that don't have a very good out to it, because if it's destroyed, it just summons itself back by banishing a water monster from the graveyard, so it's pretty hard to get rid of if your opponent doesn't have a way to get rid of it without destroying it. And also it has a once per turn effect to lower a monster's attack by half, which is pretty nice. We have a Black Rose Dragon. We all know what it does. It blows up the entire field. And as I talked about earlier, it's pretty good in combination with the skill and TG Striker, or, Psychic Wheel Leader in the expensive version, because it catches people off guard and forces them to commit even if they know it's coming. We have a copy of CRYSTRON Quarren Gandrags. Obviously, it's the best boss monster that we could make. It is really strong. It can banish 3 monsters from the field or graveyard. It unfortunately targets, and that is annoying, but it's still really, really strong to just banish 3 monsters. And it's sometimes better than Trisha Zero, even though we're not playing it in the free-to-play version because it is quite expensive. But the fact that it banishes from the graveyard as well is pretty good. If you can't go for lethal during the turn you summon it, at least you can still prevent your opponent from following up during their next turn. Also, when it's destroyed, you can special summon any monster from banished, from your opponent's banished monsters as well. And finally, we have a copy of Trishula. Trishula is just a really good boss monster that we could make if we're not machine locked. It is a bit easier to make than Quarion, but you can't make it when you use any of your non-tuner CRYSTRON monsters effects because it locks you into machine synchros. And it has a non-target banish from hand, field, and graveyard. Okay, let's have a look at the expensive version. I know I've made tons of expensive CRYSTRON decks over the years, and they all look different, and I play different stuff with it, but, if I were to be making a pure CRYSTRON deck, using, no broken skills like the Fleur skill, which kinda just works with any deck anyway, if I were to make a pure CRYSTRON deck that is playing like the most basic form of CRYSTRON gameplay, this will be the list that I will be playing. So we have our usual starters like Undyne that we play usually in the expensive version. I know you can get this card from box ship as well, like the other CRYSTRON cards, but I know you don't have we don't have unlimited box ships anyway, so I won't include too many box ship cards in the free-to-play version anyway, because, you're gonna spend your box chips on Self-Ifnir or Quarion instead of cards like Undyne, which, honestly, it's not even that good because you have to play Controller, and Controller is something that you never want to draw. We are also playing Psychic Wheel Leader, as I alluded to back in the free-to-play version. It's much, much better than TG Striker, and again, I think it's obtainable from box chips, but you don't want to spend box chips on too many cards that you don't really, really need. Psychic Wheel Leader also has an effect, aside from special summoning itself, to destroy a monster with a lower attack when you use it as a synchro material. And this is pretty good not only to get rid of stuff on field, but to also chain block in some situations where you really, really want, for example, your Quarion Gandrax to resolve. You can synchro summon using this card, and then chain block it with the effect of Wheel Leader, so that your Quarion will always resolve, even if your opponent has something like a Cyber Dragon Infinity, for example. We're playing more copies of Fistburn because it's a pretty good card. We're playing Forbidden Droplet and Lightning Vortex instead of back to square one. You could still play Darkhole. If we had more space, we would definitely play Darkhole. But Lightning Vortex is just a little bit better in this deck because the discard is really good if you have like a Fistburn in hand and you really want a way to get it to the graveyard. And even if you have something like a Self-Ifnir, it's fine to discard it because it works from hand or graveyard. And also, it's better when you go first, because if you go first, you can keep this card in your hand, and then do your usual CRYSTRON combos, and then make Insectron during your opponent's turn, and then after they committed all of their monsters on field, during your next turn, you can just drop the Lightning Vortex, and only blow up your opponent's board. You don't have to worry about it blowing your own board up, because Lightning Vortex only destroys your opponent's monsters. And yeah, Forbidden Droplet needs an introduction. It's very strong, and even more so in CRYSTRONs, because all of the main deck non-tuner CRYSTRONs have graveyard effects. And for the extra deck, we're playing Trish's Zero, which is really strong. Trish, Corion, Black Rose, you know, the usual. We're also playing Coral Dragon because it works really well with Psychic Wheel Leader. You can make a 6 pretty easily by having a Fistfern or a Smiger plus a Wheel Leader. And then you can make Coral Dragon pop a card using Wheel Leader, and then Coral Dragon discard one to pop another card, and then synchro it away, and then draw a card for free. And finally, we have a copy of High Speed Roy Chanbara, really good card for going to lethal. After you blow up your opponent's board with something like a Dark Hole or a Lightning Vortex that we're playing in this deck, you can very easily make this card with like plenty of combos that you could do with this deck, and just attack 2 times for lethal. Because of this card, even if you can't go for lethal immediately, it being able to attack 2 times is really strong to just clear up monsters on the field. Maybe if you negated something with a Forbidden Droplet, and then your opponent has like some monsters on the field with a low attack that don't have any effects active, you can just make a Chanbara and just punch over them. Okay, let's have a look at the replays. We're going second, which always sucks, but if we draw any of our spells, it will be better. And also, we can always do the surprise Black Rose Dragon thing that I talked about, and that catches a lot of people off guard. Our opponent's playing Blue Eyes, and for Blue Eyes, the spells that we're playing aren't going to be very good, because those are designed to get rid of monsters that have quick effects. But for Blue Eyes, it's more like a back row deck. We're gonna make Scrap Recycler, send a Turtle because we already have everything in hand. We're gonna go Self-Ifnir, summon a Tuner, and then our opponent doesn't do anything, which is amazing, which means we can use our skill, make our monsters level 4, and then make a surprise of Black Rose Dragon, and they cannot respond to the skill, and they can only chain stuff to the Black Rose Dragon, which won't matter because they're gonna just be destroyed anyway. So all of their Successor Souls and Ultimate Fusions and Crackdowns all are destroyed, and then we can just summon a Tuner and pass. Our opponent will end their turn, and then we can use our Tuner to make a Synchro before they leave their main phase, and next turn we can just combo off. We can make a Self-Ifnir pop our Synchro, and that is another thing that you could do with our Self-Ifnir. Let's pick Corion Gandrax because it's funny. We can banish 3 of our opponent's monsters. We'll hit our opponent for 3k. It's not lethal, but I mean, I won't pass up an opportunity to make my boy Corion Gandrax with the lovely gold border and gold card name. Amazing looking card. Anyway, our opponent has a bit of things that they could do during their turn, which I'm completely fine with. They can't really do too much when we already have so much set up. You can pop our Synchro, but we can get back a monster so that we won't take any damage. During the end phase, we can revive back something with Impact, and then next turn, we can just combo off again. This time, let's make a copy of regular Trishula and banish the Fusion plus any remaining monsters in his graveyard. We'll go Smigo, grab a Impact just because we can, and then just set 2 and hit our opponent for lethal. Okay, during our second game, again, we're going second, but our opponent is also playing Battle Chronicle. I think they're not playing Blue Eyes this time, but they're playing Dark Magician. And they're going to grab a copy of Successor Soul by normal summoning a normal BLS. I don't know why they would do that, and not make the Link one because they can't actually use it on a normal monster, but that's fine with us. We're just gonna do the exact same thing that we did last time, except we're not gonna summon Scrap Recycler because we don't have it in hand. We're just gonna normal summon the Citri and then make a Black Rose Dragon again. and blowing up everything on their field. We're gonna set one in pass, and they probably couldn't have enough for lethal anyway. Our opponent will try to bench our trap. That's completely fine. We just chain it and summon a monster. And yeah, they could grab the fusion spell, and even so, they still won't have enough to deal any battle damage to us, which is good for us. He's going to act out over our monster, and next turn we are free to combo off. We can spin back our opponent's fusion using the back to square one. And then let's do a little bit of comboing. Let's go Smigo, grab a trap, Self-Fear, summon itself, pop itself, summon a Fistburn, and normal summon the TG Striker, and then make an Matrix. We're gonna go Fistburn, grab a Self-Fear, and guess what? Game's already over. We're gonna banish the turtle from graveyard, summon the Self-Fear, and the 2k attack of the Self-Fear always comes up in situations like these where you're a bit short of lethal, but you can just always summon it from your hand with the turtle and then just punch your opponent and deal lethal damage. Okay, so let's have a look at the third and final game. We're playing the expensive version against a top tier deck, Luralisk. Even after the ban list is still pretty strong. They can still do all of the insane stuff they were capable of, just a little bit less consistently and a bit more vulnerable to hand traps. We're going first, so let's see what we can do. We have Undyne, which is good. We didn't draw the controller, and this is going to be our turn 1 combo that I couldn't show off using the free-to-play version. It's exactly the same for the free-to-play version, and it's going to be Ryon pass, basically. Our opponent will go and Cosmic our trap. We can chain the trap and then chain Ryon, because after we use the trap, we won't have enough zones to actually use the effect of Ryon, so that's why we have to use Ryon right now. And then we can make a powered Inzektron, and then activate its lingering effect, and for the rest of the turn, we are guaranteed to not take any battle damage. Even if our opponent destroys any of our monsters, it's fine. And they're playing Luralisk anyway, so they don't have enough attack to attack over any of our monsters anyway, so we will be able to keep all of our monsters. Our opponent will try to negate our monster using the effect of the spell. It's kind of like a Dark Ruler no more, but you know, you're playing Luralisk, you should know that lingering effects work as lingering effects. Like, it's just like Assembled Nightingale. You're playing Assembled Nightingale. So yeah, even if our opponent negates our synchro, it's already activated its effect. It's like how if you try to negate Assembled Nightingale when it already used its effect, it won't work. So our opponent will just combo off, make an Ensemble Blue, which is a bit annoying. But we should be able to deal with that, especially because we keep all of our monsters on field because they can't really beat over any of them. During our next turn, let's just normal summon the controller. They're gonna use the Ensemble Nightingale right now, which is completely fine. And guess what? Trishula Zero Dragon does not destroy and does not target, so we can get rid of everything on field. They could bounce it back to the extra deck, but that's fine. We can still use its on summon effect anyway. And let's summon 2 tuners and pass turn. You know, when in doubt, always summon more tuners and stall for turn. It is a very important idea to keep in mind when you're playing CRYSTRONs, is that this deck is not very aggressive, so usually you can't really OTK without a very specific hand. So it's much better to just fall back and make some tuners on the field to try to wait out for another turn instead of trying to push for game. So we're gonna make 2 tuners, as I said. Our opponent will try to make some Xyz monsters, but without the Ensemble Blue Robin or the Assembled Nightingale, the deck doesn't really do a whole lot. So, you know, let's just activate Ryon, summon the turtle back, and then make a copy of a Matrix, switch everything to defense so they can't really attack over anything. And then next turn we're just free to combo off again. And we have more than enough material to make a Quarion, so let's make that, even though we definitely do not need to. It is very cool to make Quarion. So let's make it. We'll banish 1 monster and 2 from the graveyard. We can't really banish the Promenade Thrush because it's untargetable, but we can just beat over it because it has 0 defense. We can just normal summon a Strop Recycler, beat over it, and then attack for lethal.